Okay, here's a video, a supplement tutorial for this corner clip and ultimate glitch, mostly the ultimate glitch. Please watch Sam's video first, link in the description, because I'm building on that one. Basically, I'm going to show the same setup, but in this video I want to talk more about how it can fail, and and when it does fail, I want to expand on why it failed. So, like, did you jump too early? Did you jump too late? That's what I want to expand on, because otherwise you fail and you don't know why, and you can't really improve that way. So, um, same thing here as Sam does. That corner clip's quite consistent for me now. Anyway, so as Sam said, walk up to here. So this looks about correct. And then, oh, by the way, I want to mention as well, Sam plays on high graphics. On low graphics, I'm aiming at that little, that thing. So vertically, I line up the prince's head with that black dot. The textures look completely different from Sam's video. Anyway, so then we try to do something like this. Okay, good. I got it first try. Fine, so I'm not going to talk about the rest of it. So there were two important jumps here where timing matters. Obviously, the first jump where you jump from the spot, timing doesn't matter for that at all because you're just jumping as long as you aim correctly. And then there are the following two jumps are where timing matters. So first, you've got the jump where you're kind of, in fact, let me do this because this will be, bear with me, I don't have the time to edit this video properly, so, okay. So this is where we were. This is the jump where the timing doesn't matter. And then you land, and then very shortly after landing, you really don't want to delay too much. Very shortly after landing, you want to jump again. So you can see here I'm pressing space right there. And then very shortly after you jump, you want to jump again. So press space there. And that's it. At that point, you've got it. You just do ultimate glitch and continue. Now, what I want to talk about is the precise timings. So hopefully you can see that on the video. Maybe I'll zoom in a bit so you can see a bit better. Okay. So these are, I've done this a bunch of times, and I basically wrote down exactly the exact frame counts and noted them down and noted what the outcome was as well. So just to briefly explain, I'm timing from, so you can see how as I go forward, the prince will get into an animation where you can see he's kind of close to the ground. So not here, but right there. So you can see when I switch between these two frames, the prince kind of snaps his arm to indicate that he's about to approach the ground. So I'm timing from this point, and then the next point is when I press space on the input viewer. There's an uncertainty of 1 or 2 frames there, but it's pretty accurate. And then the next timing point after that is the next time I press space. Okay. So with that in mind, let's look at the data again. So the first thing that can happen is is that you don't even get a first jump in at all. The first jump is too early. So I can try to show that off. And as I said, my apologies, I don't have the time to edit this video properly, so you just have to bear with me. I'm not sure if that's correct, but for the purposes of this, it should be fine. So if I jump too early, okay, that was, my position was off. But that's good, something I should mention as well. If your position is off, I think I was too far to the left there. Rewind and check the video, you'll see that when I jumped forward, the prince actually kind of went a little bit to the left, even though I jumped forward because he kind of got pushed by the collision. So that's something that can happen. If that little push to the left happens, you're standing in the wrong place. You didn't necessarily mistime anything. You were just standing in the wrong place. Anyway. Okay, that looks about correct. So I'm gonna jump too early on the first jump deliberately this time. Yeah, so something like that happens, or sometimes he just jumps in place. So that's what can happen there. So when you can see that I said that when there was a 10 frame difference between these 2 points that I talked about, so this point and this point where I press space, when there was a 10 frame difference, it failed because it failed because the first jump was too early. Okay. The second thing that can happen is the first jump is too late. In that case, you do jump. You don't like jump in place or do a wall run or anything like that. You do actually jump, but you don't get a second jump. You don't even have the opportunity to get a second jump. And you can see that that happens when our first jump is 18 frames after that Prince snapping his arms point. So the difference between a failure and being too early and a failure and being too late is approximately 8 frames, but we don't have all the data, so I think it's more like 6 frames, but it could be anywhere from sort of 5 to 9 frames or so. So be aware of that. That's the first jump, and if you get the first jump within those bounds, then as far as I can tell, that doesn't affect how your second jump will go. That is, whether you get it by jumping at frame 12 or whether you get it by jumping at frame 17, it works. It works regardless. That doesn't affect anything about what you would do for your second jump. So the second jump will still be the same number of frames after your first jump, regardless of when you got your first jump. Hopefully that's clear. Right, so the next way it can fail is, of course, with the second jump. So the first jump can be too early or too late, and then the second jump can be too early or too late. So here we've got the first jump followed by the second jump. And the second jump here is, again, that's the difference between these two. So that's this position and this position. So you can see I'm pressing space here. The difference between these two, that's the second jump. In this case, it's 23. So here, the first jump was always successful, 12, 14, 14, 14. As you can see, it's between 10 and 18. So we got a second jump, but the second jump, 23, 23, 22, 23, was too early. And then if the second jump is 34-ish, 31-ish, I did later get 31 or 34 to work, which is a bit strange. So it doesn't seem to be... There seems to be some overlap that probably depends on position or something like that. But roughly speaking, sort of once you get to 30 frames or so for the second jump, it becomes too late. So you can see from the data here where I got it correctly. We've got 25, 27, 29, 134. That's a bit of an anomaly. 29, 28. But again, sort of from 25 to 30 is the range that works for the second jump. So once again, there's about a 6 frame range that works. So first jump, 6 frame range that works. Second jump, 6 frame range that works. But I don't just want to give you the numbers, although the numbers are nice to know as well. I also want to show you what happens when you're too early and when you're too late. When you're too late, it's easy. You just don't jump. That's why I put these in brackets. It's because you just don't do a second jump. So if you didn't do a second jump, you're too late. I want to show you now what happens when you're too early on your second jump. Okay, so that looks about right to me. And then I'm gonna try to time the first jump correctly, and then I'll try to go too early on the second one on purpose. Yeah, so this happens. I got the second jump, but then I died. So this is, if there's one thing you're going to take away from this video, it's this. If this happens, where you jump and then you shortly jump again, you were too early, you need to go a bit later. You're definitely not too late if that happens. You're definitely too early. So that's the main takeaway I want you to get from this video. And then real quick, one final thing I want to talk about is so by the way, this is an example where it worked, as you can see. Actually, let me cut this like that so you can see from the beginning. So we're jumping here, and then you can see on frame 15. Actually, let's cut it out from here. Let's cut the beginning out as well. So now this is frame 0. Frame 0 now is defined as the point where I pressed space for my first jump. And then I jump, and then I press space here on frame 29. So on the data, I think that was this one, 1529. What I want to point out is that if you pointed your camera all the way down for the setup, then on frame, it might not be fully consistent, but generally it's frame 21, it goes brown. So if you're looking for some kind of visual cue to help, you shouldn't really react to this because you don't have enough time to react, but it might kind of help you visualize when you need to press jump for your second jump. So pressing jump the first time, and then when the camera goes brown, now that doesn't work. This is frame 21, and frame 21, if we go to see like 23, 23, those fail. So you don't want to press space just yet, but like 4 frames later, that's 25, 25 works. So basically a good kind of indication might be when the camera goes brown, just a little bit later, press jump. And in general for me, I don't know if it's the same for you, but the mistake I tend to make is I tend to go too early. So I try to lean on going a bit too late, and I feel that has a higher chance of working. But it's hard. It's a hard trick, okay? So just practice it, and yeah, hopefully this video helps.